Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right into this, because I have a statistic that might actually keep you up at night. Did you know that industry analysts estimate up to 80% of initial enterprise AI projects completely fail to deliver on their promised return on investment? That is a staggering number, and honestly, it's exactly what we're going to unpack today. Look, we all know AI is an absolute game changer for how we work. You don't need me to tell you that. But just throwing money at an enterprise license and actually integrating that capability to drive real revenue or efficiency, those are two totally different animals. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We're going to bridge that gap, translating all those high-level concepts into practical, actionable realities, so you and your team don't end up as just another statistic in that 80% failure rate.
Okay, so here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're looking at 1. Common AI implementation mistakes. 2. Avoiding the AI pitfalls. 3. AI in emergency situations. 4. The importance of AI training. And finally, 5. Fostering AI-friendly cultures.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Common AI Implementation Mistakes. Because, you don't just flip a magical switch and suddenly perfectly optimize your entire organization. In reality, organizations stumble into these highly predictable traps all the time. First up, treating these complex AI tools like they're just simple software updates, the whole plug-and-play fallacy. AI is not a basic word processor, folks. It needs a complex ecosystem to actually work. Then there's ignoring data readiness. It is the ultimate garbage-in, garbage-out scenario. If your internal data is unstructured, siloed, or totally outdated, and you feed that into an advanced language model, you are basically just generating very articulate, highly confident, wrong answers. And finally, there's the lack of strategic alignment. This happens when the hype train outpaces the actual strategy. You get teams buying AI tools without a real business case. And what you end up with are these isolated silos of innovation that just don't scale. That costs the business a massive amount of wasted capital and effort, all without moving the needle on your actual goals. Which brings us to Section 2, Avoiding the AI Pitfalls. So, let's look at the stark contrast between reactive adoption versus intentional integration. On one side, we have the classic pitfall, rushing to deploy AI just to say you have it, with absolutely no clear use case. On the flip side, the strategic best practice, aligning that deployment with very specific, measurable organizational goals. But how do you actually execute that strategic pivot? Well, you can't just tell teams to be more strategic. It doesn't work like that. You have to establish cross-functional teams that include both IT and the business units that will actually be using the tool day to day. You've got to set rigid key performance indicators for the AI's output before you even purchase it. For instance, requiring the tool to reduce invoice processing time by 15% or boost customer resolution rates by 10%. You dodge the pitfall by making sure every single piece of AI serves a defined, measurable purpose that ties right back to a core business objective. Now, this leads to a really crucial question. What happens when everything is literally on the line? How does AI perform in a crisis? Listen, it's one thing for an algorithm to hum along smoothly on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when variables are perfectly predictable. But crises? They are uniquely challenging for AI systems because they almost always involve black swan events, situations where there is absolutely no historical training data for the model to reference. And that brings us right into Section 3, AI in emergency situations. Basically, an emergency situation will relentlessly expose any hidden flaws in your AI implementation strategy. Why? Well, under anomalous stress, AI systems don't just slow down, they can actively degrade. When real-time data suddenly completely breaks from historical patterns, say a sudden unprecedented global supply chain shock, you experience what's called model drift. The algorithm starts making incredibly inaccurate predictions because the world it was trained on literally no longer exists. Furthermore, in high-pressure, time-sensitive events, AI hallucinations turn into critical bottlenecks. Just imagine a crisis management routing system confidently suggesting a blocked path for emergency vehicles, simply because it cannot contextualize a totally novel disaster. AI used in crisis response just doesn't have the luxury of second-guessing itself. And that right there is exactly why human oversight and a flawless baseline strategy are absolutely mandatory. When a crisis hits, an uncalibrated AI is a major liability, not an asset. Moving on to Section 4, the importance of AI training. So, how do we actually build a resilient foundation that holds up even under extreme pressure? It all comes back to the human element. Rigorous AI training is the essential foundation for strategic integration. It's about equipping your teams not just to click buttons and use tools, but to really understand their logic and limitations. And to be clear, we are not talking about a simple HR checkbox or a one-hour webinar on how to log in. We're talking about deep, continuous data literacy. Your curriculum needs to cover prompt engineering, teaching staff how to precisely query models to get functional, reliable results. It has to cover hallucination mitigation, ensuring employees can immediately recognize when an AI is just confidently fabricating information. Your workforce needs to understand the underlying logic of the large language models they're working with. Effective training makes sure that human operators are firmly in the driver's seat, treating AI as a powerful engine rather than some infallible oracle. Which leads us to our final part, Section 5, Fostering AI-Friendly Cultures. Because here's the truth, great training cannot exist in a vacuum. It takes a deliberate, step-by-step procedural journey to build across your entire organization. It starts with those initial rigorous training strategies we just detailed, but then it moves into consistent application and support. What does that actually look like in practice? Well, it means creating dedicated AI sandboxes. These are secure, ring-fenced environments where employees can experiment with new tools safely without risking proprietary company data. And finally, this journey leads to the ultimate goal, a truly AI-friendly culture. You achieve this through transparent communication from leadership, explicitly confirming that AI is being implemented to augment employee capabilities, not to eliminate their jobs. When you remove that fear of replacement and you provide safe spaces to experiment, the technology suddenly transforms into an incredible collaborative partner. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Is your organization's culture truly ready to integrate AI? Before you answer that, remember the hard details we went over today. You have to fix your data silos before you try to scale. You need to align your deployments with rigid KPIs, and you must build a culture of deep data literacy and secure experimentation. We've explored the massive costs of early mistakes, the stark reality of model drift during emergencies, and the absolute necessity of a trained, confident workforce. Now it is time to look inward and evaluate your own internal strategies. Are you really building the foundation required for true strategic integration? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions and keep learning. Catch you next time.